So I will give you the option of sitting in your chair for our centering, or if you prefer, you can sit cross-legged on the ground. We'll do our centering from seated and just a few opening movements as well. So sit back in your chair or sit up straight on the ground. Close your eyes. Get out any last fidgets. It is cold this morning, so if you need to move around a little bit, maybe rubbing your hands together to find some warmth. And then finding stillness in the body. Drawing your attention inward to your breath. Simply focusing here for the next few moments on that simple rhythm of the breath, that ever-present inhale and exhale. Don't try to change it. Just allow the breathing to be your point of focus. If the mind becomes distracted, just acknowledge that the mind is doing its job. It's always working, it's always thinking. And as best you can, draw your attention back to your breathing. Please, everyone, draw your hands now together at your heart center. I always begin my classes by chanting the sound of Om 3 times. Please join me on your own. I wish I could hear you, but I can't. But it's wonderful knowing we're all together, making the same sound as one. Please breathe in, and on the exhalation, Inhaling, exhaling. Replace your hands to your lap. Allow your eyelids to open. If you're in the chair, coming forward towards the front of the chair, sitting up nice and tall. Whether on the floor or in the chair, you are aligning shoulders over hips. And we'll begin with some simple opening flow movements. Inhaling, lift the arms up overhead. As you exhale, side tilt a little bit towards the right. You can slide one hand down the rung of your chair. And inhaling, lift up. Exhaling, side tilt to the other side. You're in the chair, your legs stay very solid. You can think about your feet pressing down into the earth. Exhaling, come into your side tilt. Inhaling back to an upright position. Exhaling here. And continue with your breath. Your pace might be a little bit faster or slower than mine. It's with your breath. Next time you do come to an upright position, Pause, stretch, get really long. You're going to take your right hand and encircle the opposite wrist. Pull up a little bit more, find more length. And as you exhale, come over to a side tilt that will be held for a few breaths. Focusing on that nice, ever-present inhale and exhale. And come on back up. Undo, and then encircle the opposite wrist, pull up. Find that length, and we're taking the length into a side tilt to the other side, pausing for a few breaths. I'm just going to adjust something on my laptop. You hold for another breath or two. And coming back up to upright, undo the interlace and float the palms back down to the heart center. Place your fingertips on top of your shoulders. And we're going to do some nice, easy elbow circles, one side and then the other. Really think about drawing that elbow well back behind you to get the full range of motion in your shoulder joint. We're going to take that motion into a twist. Allow the torso to twist in the direction of the elbow lift. Elbow lifts, torso turns. Elbow lifts and turn. The next time you lift the right elbow, draw it back, and we'll pause in our twist. You can release those fingertips down onto the floor or the chair. Breathe. And fingertips back to the top of the shoulder. We'll just do it one more time, one or two more times with the breath. Before we come to hold on the second side. So lift that elbow up. And you can either keep the hand on that shoulder or release. In these moments of stillness, notice the mind. Does it start to wander? Draw it back to your breath or the sensations in your body, placing fingertips on the shoulder, coming back to center. We are going to come to stand in a moment. We do it very methodically, but first I wanted to show you a position for your hands that we'll be using later in the class. It's easier to see when we're seated. So this will be hands on the side ribs, and we'll work, well, let's work with it just for a moment here now. Close your eyes, hands on side ribs, not on the front and not on the belly, but side ribs. Close your eyes and just breathe. You might notice a little bit of movement under the hands. Don't force anything, don't change anything, just observe. And open your eyes. We will come to stand. So I'm going to take my socks off because it can get very slippery in yoga when you have socks on, and we want to have a nice stable grounding. I know it's cold today, but I hope you will join me in bare feet. We're going to hinge forward from our hips crease. You can use your hands on your chair or use momentum of your arms to inhale. And exhale, come all the way up to stand. Join palms. Send your palms to your heart center. And I'll come over to the side. Standing tall. That position of hands at the heart is a little reminder to continue to lift the heart, pressing thumbs in and up. Release arms alongside the body. This is mountain pose. Find your stillness. Strong legs. The muscles of the legs are engaged and the breath is flowing easily. And if you do have a chair, you can turn to face your chair. You don't need to use it, but it might be nice to have it there. We're going to warm ourselves up a little bit with some half sun breaths. So for our sun breathing, very important to let the breath lead. Let the inhalation begin. Join with movement as you lift. Let the exhalation begin. Join that with movement. Arms down, gaze down. Inhaling, movement. Exhaling, movement. We'll add a little bit more. Inhaling here. As you exhale, send your hips back, come into chair pose. Hands can be on the thighs or on the chair. Arms out to the sides. This is very important. Rotate the thumbs back. And inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Adding on, inhale, lift. Exhale, chair pose. And lengthen the legs this time. You can hold with hands on the thighs or on the chair. Exhale, arms back, thumbs rotate back. And inhale, lift. Hands come to the heart. We're going to do that one more time, and this time I'll offer the option of perhaps going a little bit more deeply when we come to this position. So you're either staying here, very important for people with back injuries or osteoporosis to stay at this level. If you don't have either of those conditions, maybe you'll choose to go a little bit more deeply. You can let your head release. Don't do it yet. I'm just demonstrating. So anywhere that brings a sense of stretch into the backs of the legs. So hands to the heart center. Inhaling. Exhaling, chair pose first. Now finding your forward bend. Inhaling, long spine. Maybe your pose is here. Some people are coming a little bit more deeply into the pose. If that feels pleasant in the big muscles in the backs of the legs, you choose your forward bend. And everyone, please come back to that sort of halfway position. Spine long. Legs lengthen. You can always have a little bend in your knees. That sometimes feels better for people with tighter leg muscles. And then bending more deeply. Here's chair pose again. Thumbs rotating back. And inhale, lift all the way up. Exhaling, hands to heart. And here's one of those moments where we pause, breathe, notice. And we're going to come into our chair version of downward dog. And this is another one of those places where if you ever don't want to do downward dog on the floor, this is your pose, but let's all do it together. So stepping your feet back, sending your hips back, and letting your arms be long. So it's not a floppy arm, it's a lengthened arm, and you're pressing your hands into the top of the chair. Little bend in the knees might feel very nice. Breathe. Long spine, bent knees, or long legs. And everyone, please bend knees, walk yourself forward, come to stand. And for those who choose to, we are going to come down onto hands and knees. So you remember, if you're not a hands and knees person, you can do it at your chair. But if you are a hands and knees person, please join me. Coming down. And setting yourself up in table pose. Knees under hips, hands under shoulders. And breathe. We're going to take cat-cow stretches. So tuck your toes and find the arc in your spine as you release your belly towards the floor a little bit. Your head lifts just slightly. You can see there's a arc in the spine. And just engage. Come on back to neutral. So many of you may have taken classes where you come into this rounding. We're not doing that today. We're just coming to neutral. Inhaling. Lift the sits bones. Find that arc in your spine. And engage abdominals. Come back to neutral. One more time. Inhaling here. Exhaling, engage abdominals, come back to neutral, table pose. And now untuck the toes. Extend your right leg long behind you. And lift the leg up off the floor. And replace the knee down. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Lengthen the other leg, keep it long and lift it up. And replace the knee to the earth. We're going to combine our arc spine with that lifted movement. So I'll talk you through it. Let's all do it together. Nice. Cow pose, arc the spine, inhale. As you come back to neutral, lift, it doesn't matter which leg, one leg. And come on back, arc the spine. Lifting opposite leg long. Knees replaced. As you arc the spine, we're going to add an arm if that's something you'd like to do. Right leg long, maybe the left arm lifts. And replace. Arc the spine. Left leg, right arm. And replace. Let's do it for one more cycle. And of course, don't lift the arm if that feels unsteady for you. Arcing here and extending and coming back to hands and knees. We'll take a balance hold. So extending that right leg long, lift it up off the earth, and perhaps lift opposite arm for a brief hold. If you don't like that, both palms or fists can be grounded. And release. Let's take a break, come off of our wrists for a moment. We'll take the balance on the other side in a moment. You can either stand up tall on your shins, or if you're on, if you remain standing, you can come back to mountain pose. And let's do conducting wrists, just to take some of that pressure off your wrists and find some ease, just waving the wrists back and forth like you're conducting an orchestra. And let's come on down, take our balance to the second side, extending leg long, lifting it and choosing to lift the arm or not, taking a balance hold. And releasing the hand, releasing the knee, and we're going to come to stand, everyone. So a really nice way to come to stand is to use a chair, piece of furniture, come into a lunge position, and bring yourself up to upright. That's just one suggested way for coming to stand. And now we will move into more of our standing poses. So again, I invite you to have a chair available. You don't have to use it. Bringing your left foot forward, stepping your right foot back. Your hips are towards the chair. Your back toes are turned in just a little. And placing your hands. Actually, let's bring them into cactus. So this is cactus position, or goalpost arms, it's sometimes called. Your elbows are about the height of your shoulders and bending your forward knee. Straighten the leg, bring the arms towards each other. Please go wide with the arms as you bend your knee. And forearms together, leg long. Exhaling, remember the breath is more important than anything. If you're beginning to feel fatigued, maybe you're just moving the arms. Or continue for 1 or 2 more cycles. The next time you separate your arms, you're bending the knee. And this time you're lengthening the arms up overhead. This is warrior 1 pose. Hands could be on the chair. They could be a little bit more forward and wider. And the breath is your focus. Back leg is straight. Release the arms, straighten that front leg. Both legs are straight, but the hips are still towards the chair. Bringing your hands to your hips, working with straight legs now. We're lifting the heart and drawing the elbows back towards each other. It's just that little lift, finding length in your front body, and exhaling, little bitty forward fold. Long spine, inhaling, lift up. Let's find that arc again, lifting. And exhaling, little forward fold. One more time. Find the arc in the spine and forward fold. Hands can stay on the hips or they can come to the chair. We're looking for sensation in the backs of the legs. So that might be here for some of you, especially for taller people. Coming a little closer to the floor might be appropriate for some. Honoring your body. Going only as far into the pose as feels like a healthy stretch without strain. And coming all the way back up. Turning all 10 toes forward. Pause for a moment in this wide-legged mountain pose. All 10 toes directly forward. I'm switching my chair. You can simply bring your other foot forward. So coming back to that sequence on the second side. Again, hips towards chair, back toes turned in, heel is down. And starting with warrior one, bending into the knee. Finding your cactus or goalpost arms. And lengthen leg, forearms towards each other. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. And inhaling. Continue for a few more times. As the elbows go wide, they don't have to come to 180 degrees. Maybe they're moving back a little bit towards each other. That could feel really nice across the front body. Exhaling. And inhaling. One more time, exhaling. Here's our hold. Lifting arms. Bent knee. This is warrior one. Students who've been in my class or other classes before have probably heard this at least 100 times. Give yourself permission to come out of the pose at any time. My words are just suggestions. If you haven't already, release your hands to the chair, lengthen your front leg, and we'll take the rest of that little sequence. Now the legs are straight. Hands come to the hips. Find that lift. Elbows towards each other. Little lift of the head. And folding forward, just a small forward bend. Really working on finding the length in your spine. Inhaling. And exhaling. And a few more times. Find that arc in the spine and then the length. Elbows towards one another. And here's your hold. It might be here. It might be here. Wherever you feel sensation in the back of the legs without strain. And coming all the way back up. Turn all 10 toes forward. And this time, let's step ourselves back to mountain pose. Feet are hips distance apart. Legs are strong, like the feet and legs are like the roots of a tree. Solid, secure. Upper body is lifted, but there's a softness with the breath, like the flowing branches of a tree. And let's come back to the first side. So your left foot comes forward. You know what? I'll just check the time, and I think we're going to move directly on to a balance before we'll do this pose, which was going to be triangle pose. We'll do that next week. So if you would come to stand next to something for a little stability and support. And we're going to take our balance pose today, which will be tree pose. So one of the most foundational balance poses in yoga. We always start with mountain pose. And from that place, turning the outer knee out, heel to ankle, hands to heart. Let's lift up on the inhale. Wait for the exhalation. Join that with your movement. And inhaling, movement follows. We'll just release and lift the arms up and down a few more times. If you're feeling nice and steady, you can begin to shift your gaze as well. The eyes are such an important element of balance. Or if this is feeling not quite on for you today, you can have a hand on the chair. Our balance certainly shifts from day to day, from hour to hour. And the next time you release the arms down, release the foot back to the earth. And we're going to do the same thing. So cat for a long time and really wants to come up higher. Your position will repeat what we just did. Inhaling, lift. Exhaling. Inhaling. And exhaling. Very challenging to add the gaze here. And we're going to take a hold in tree. That could be this more lifted version with the foot at the calf or at the floor, arms overhead, or at the heart center. And release. Bring yourself around to the other side, please. And the same thing, establishing yourself in tree pose first, mountain pose. We will be a tree on a mountain in a moment. Breathe. And heel to ankle, hands to heart. Inhaling, lift. Exhaling, release. And it'll just be that simple up and down flow. Inhaling, Lift the gaze as well if you choose to, or hold the chair. And the next time the arms float down, release. The foot comes back down to the floor. Pause for a breath. And our second variation is bringing soul to calf, or remain grounded. You choose. And once again, inhaling, lift. Exhaling, arms down. Maybe one arm. And the next time you do lift the arms up overhead, that's the pause. You might feel a little more stable and centered to bring hands to the heart. Be in your tree pose for a few breaths. Foot at any height. And release. Come on back down. Pausing here. We are going to transition now down to the floor. So for those of you who are not belly down people, remember, you can come to the wall and do the same thing. But for those of you who choose to come on down, make your way gradually down to the floor. A nice safe way to do that is to come onto your side body, roll yourself out long, and then onto your belly. We're coming into Sphynx pose. You've probably seen those statues of sphinxes in museums, right? They're not collapsed. They're lifted and watchful. So pressing the tops of the feet into the earth, elbows under shoulders, fingers stretching and heart lifting. There's that arc again. Breathe. And release. Come on down, folding one forearm on top of the other. Let your legs relax. It might feel good after that back bend. Just swivel your hips back and forth a little bit. And I was just seeing that I have a few messages in the chat. Somebody else is having trouble hearing. I apologize for that. Sometimes, especially when I'm on my belly, it's hard to hear. I'm going to continue to try to speak up. And we're going to come now to a similar position on our bellies. Palms are going to be under the shoulders, elbows in close to the sides of the body. So elbows are not wide, palms on the earth. And I'm going to come down. I hope you can hear me. Palms under shoulders, forehead to the earth, elbows in close. We're preparing for Cobra Pose. Inhaling, lift from the chest, then the shoulders, the neck, and the head. Exhale, reverse that. Come on back down. Inhaling, lift. Any height. It might be a little bit, just a little bit of a lift. Inhaling, lift. Exhaling, release. And our last part will be a hold. Hold your Cobra Pose. Try not to muscle yourself into the pose with your hands. It's from the strength of your back. Come out at any time. Let's all do that together. Fold opposite arm on top. Pause and rest. Let your legs relax. And breathe. Feel the back body especially fill with breath as you inhale and release the breath. Ease yourself more deeply towards the earth. Inhaling. Feel that back body expansion. Exhaling. Breathe out, find ease, sink deeply. One more time, inhaling, back body fills. Exhaling, breathe out, sink deeply. And we are going to, at this moment, come onto our backs for those of you who choose to. I am not a back body person. I don't come down to the floor on my back, so I demonstrate what we will be doing from the chair. It's pretty simple. Many of you have done this with me. If you're not sure, you can always take a look at what I'm doing in the chair. I'll demonstrate really quickly. It's going to be thigh in. You may be on the, most of you will be on the floor doing this. Thigh in, arms back, foot, leg lengthen. Thigh in, lengthen, other side, thigh in. Of course, we'll go much slower than this, thigh in and lengthen. It's not here. It's not up towards the sky. That foot comes down to the earth. Okay, we'll do that and we'll do some bridge pose lifts, which will be like this. So I assume you're all making your way down onto your backs. Bend your knees. If you're in the chair, be in the chair. And soles of the feet on the floor. No need to anticipate. We're starting with the left leg lifting foot off the floor. Draw the thigh in towards the chest. Let's just hold that for a breath or two. Enjoy the feeling of thigh towards chest. Opposite leg can be bent or extended long. And now, here we go, extending the arms long beside the ears. That leg comes down to the floor and stretches long. Exhaling, thigh in towards chest. Inhaling, foot comes back to the floor, leg lengthens, arms long. All on the same side initially. Thigh towards chest, draw in. Here's your nice inhalation. thigh towards chest. Inhaling, arms back and long, leg long on the floor. And last time, thigh in. And this time, we will send the sole of the foot up towards the sky. You're at about a 90-degree angle, more or less, and your hands are behind the thigh, holding on. So it looks like this. Enjoying the stretch in the back of the leg. Yes, I can see many of you. Thank you for having your videos on. Interlacing those hands around the thigh and pressing the thigh into the hands. We're not coming into a big old stretch where we're coming closer to the chest. Just let it be 90 degrees or less. And soften the knee. Bring the sole back down to the earth. Just balance yourself out. Make sure that you've come back to a place of equilibrium, and we'll take the other side. So lifting opposite foot up off the earth, drawing thigh in towards chest. And inhaling, foot to floor, lengthen leg, arms back. Yes. Nice. Exhaling, thigh into chest, interlace, either around your shin or behind your thigh. Inhaling, go long. Arms back, leg long. Exhaling, thigh to in. I see some of you are moving on. You don't have to be at the pace of my voice. So continue at your own pace. And last time, as you draw the thigh in towards the chest, this time lengthen that sole up towards the sky. Your leg is more or less at 90 degrees. There can be a little bend in the knee. Breathe. And bend the knee, everyone. Bring the sole of the foot back down to the earth. We'll move right away into bridge pose. For bridge pose, soles of both feet pressing evenly into the earth. And we're going to leave the arms today alongside the body. Simply lift the hips up off the earth. If you're in the chair, like me, it could be this kind of a lift. And exhaling, release the hips back down. Inhaling, lift the hips. Exhaling, release the hips back down. One more time with your breath, inhaling. Exhaling. And this time preparing for your hold. People on the floor, pressing down well into the feet, lifting the hips. Pause with your hips lifted. If you're an interlacer and you've done yoga before, you can certainly interlace your hands behind you. And this might be a nice variation in the chair, interlacing your hands and lifting your heart. If you're on the floor and you're not interlacing, you're simply allowing your arms to be relaxed, but lengthened alongside your body. Exhaling, float the hips back down to the earth. And simply pick your feet up off the ground one at a time. Draw both thighs in towards your chest. You can take some knee circles, that might feel good. You can do whatever feels good for you right here. You can sway back and forth. You can be in stillness, of course. And finally, coming to your stillness, prepare yourself for relaxation. People on the floor, reclining, letting your legs stretch out long. Some people like to put their calves up on an ottoman or a chair. That can feel really nice on your low back. If you're in the chair, you're sitting back in the support of the chair. You can let your legs stretch out long. It's nice to get close to a wall so your head can be at a wall. And settling yourself into relaxation in a pose that's right for you. We're going to work a little bit on breathing, which can be one of the keys to relaxation and stress reduction in our lives. Please place your hands on your side ribs in that same position that we practiced when we were seated. Hands on side ribs. Just observing for a moment. You might notice a little bit of movement in your ribs as you breathe in and out. You might not notice anything. Maybe it's still. No judgment. Simply observing. We'll begin to guide the breath. On the inhalation, let your ribs flare out to the sides into your palms. And as you exhale, knit the ribs back towards the midline. Inhaling, go wide, ribs into hands. Exhaling, ribs knit back towards the midline. Inhaling, ribs expand. It's a floating motion. When I learned this breath, the teacher likened it to a jellyfish. So think about that nice, gentle, flowing, fluid, outward movement as you breathe in. And a definite contraction towards the midline as you breathe out. Do this a few more times on your own. It might feel a little unnatural if you're not accustomed to yogic breathing. Don't worry about it. Just let it be easy and playful. Any focus on the breath is beneficial. A few more cycles. Breathing in and breathing out, allowing the rib cage to move. As you breathe. And now, releasing the need to guide the breath. Come on back to your natural rhythm of breathing. Let the body be relaxed, and the mind is quietly focused for the next few moments as we rest. Shavasana is always the closing pose in our yoga practice, and it can be one of the most challenging because of the stillness. Please allow the breathing to grow deeper again. You may notice that gentle expansion and release of the ribs. Bring movement into fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. If you're on the floor, bending your knees, rolling over to one side and remaining there for a few breaths. If you're in the chair, coming away from your chair back. And everyone returning to your seated mountain in the chair or on the floor. Take your time, no need to rush. Legs, if you're on the floor, can be in any position. They can be crossed, they can be spread wide, they can be relaxed, however you're comfortable. And everyone, please, returning hands to heart center, pressing palms, finding that gentle lift. And let's close with one Om together, breathing in and out. Om. Find one more nice, full, expansive inhalation to close our practice together today, exhaling, namaste. Thank you, everyone.